basically, after my granddaughter Lily, who's now she's 6, she was diagnosed with a brain tumor when she was 1. It very quickly became apparent, that hospitals and children's cancers and brain tumors, there's such little awareness, and actually we all rely so much on charities. About 3% of all the annual spend on cancer research goes into children's cancers, and yet cancer is the biggest killer of children under 14, and a similar amount, it used to be only 1%, but a similar amount, I think it's now 3, of spending goes into brain tumors, and yet brain tumors are the biggest cancer killer of all adults under 40 and all children, and yet it gets such a tiny amount of funding. So this is why we were inspired to start raising money, raising awareness, and we got involved with the Gosh charity to start with, because they were treating Lily, they still are. As I went through the journey over the last 5 years, I realized that this is where I want to spend my time. Whilst I was still at EY, it was about fundraising and awareness raising. I was a one-person social media promoter of brain tumors and children's cancers, but I realized I couldn't do it on my own, and I was starting to see this new purpose that was all around helping my family, because I'll do anything to help my sons, and obviously with Lily, but also help charities, because I realized there's this huge gulf missing, and the charities that we started to get to know do so much. So that's it. I need to think about working part-time at EY and ultimately thinking about my retirement. So I spoke to my bosses, they agreed to the part-time working. So I went down to 3 days a week, and that gave me 2 days to start thinking about charity stuff. And I realized actually that wasn't enough. So I spoke to my pension advisor and decided I was about to turn 55, and thought, and when he planted the idea that I didn't have to wait till till I was nearly 60 to retire, and I could potentially afford to retire sooner, that idea was planted, and I decided to tell my bosses that I was going to retire earlier than perhaps everyone thought, and so I gave them 9 months notice, because I like to forward plan, and it was very hard to start talking about planning for next year's work in global without being telling them actually I'm not going to be here. And that's where I started to think about, well, what might I do? I did have 9 months to try and find something. It was a bit scary to think about how I was going to do that, and so I did a lot of reading around charities, started to look at websites, etc., and decided to be bold and connect with people who were already in that field. One of them led to speaking to one of the current vice chair at the time. He's no longer with that charity, but he a vice chair at the brain tumor charity, which was a charity I hadn't been completely familiar with. I was familiar with other brain tumor charities, perfect timing, because I had a brilliant conversation with the chap there. Well, coincidence, if you're interested in being a trustee, we're just recruiting, and we're just about to send out a recruitment pack. And so I said, yeah, definitely, I'll have a go. So I filled it in and applied, and so that was in the pipeline. I was very keen to make sure that when I retired, I had something to go on to, because I didn't want to just not do anything. So I started to say to people, actually, I'm not retiring. I'm no longer going to be paid to work. I'm now going to work unpaid, because I still have a lot to give. I could have carried on working at EY for another, probably another 5 to 10 years, I guess. Certainly these days, you don't have to retire at, when your pension's due. So, but it was just so important to me that I did this charity work, and also I wanted to have the flexibility to be able to look after my grandchildren or do whatever I needed, because actually Lily's got a little sister now, so she's 2, so life's a bit harder. Lily has to go for a scan. I have the 2-year-old quite often, and all those different things. It becomes harder. I was lucky though. I got the position, and they actually took on 8 trustees, so they had a big churn happening. So, and that's when you realise, gosh, I was actually very lucky, because they hadn't planned on taking on 8, but I could see why. And we're all very different. Everyone's got different skills, and you can see why they've done it. And I got the notification the very week that I left EY. And then around that time in March, before I left, we were invited to Great Ormond Street. So as I say, I'd been an ambassador, but I literally did all the training, and then we went into lockdown. So I did nothing as an ambassador for Gosh, and it was something that I thought I'd still quite like to do. And so we were fortunate that we were invited to an opening of their new Sight and Sound building, because as a family, we with Lily's fund, we had invested over £10,000 into it, and through our fundraising, our first tranche of fundraising. So we were invited to the opening, and I was very lucky that I met Louise Parks, who's the CEO, and we were chatting about returning to the office, and I said, well, actually, I won't be doing that very much longer, because I'm retiring, and actually, I just took the opportunity. And I think that's the main thing I've learned through this. You have to be bold. You have to just go for it. And I thought, I realize this perhaps is not the time and place, but if I don't do it, I'll regret it. So I basically just said, actually, I'd love to come and chat if you don't mind. If you've got some time, can I send you an email? Can we meet up? Because I would love to do more than just be an ambassador for Gosh. I'd love to do more. So she says, yeah, that'd be great. And we connected, and I've been doing some more things for them. The main thing I'm doing is I am mentoring somebody, but as an ambassador perspective, I'm really telling Lily's story at some different events, because the Great Ormond Street are building a new children's cancer centre, and so I tell her story and why that cancer centre is so important. But I think first and foremost, it's that the brain tumour charity is the one that is just very important because of Lily's condition. But it's also really nice to do some work with the other 2, because when you're living as a family with a brain tumour, with somebody with a brain tumour, you think about it all the time. And I just wasn't sure how much I could take. We're lucky that Lily's doing okay at the moment. She's still got the tumour, and it's got a cyst on it, and that can do damage as well. So, and there's all sorts of issues from the chemo as well, because it's a poison. So it's having those different things, and also with the Make-A-Wish, and that being more relevant to my digital transformation side. And that's obviously about bringing joy to children who are facing, in other words, really awful situations. It's a nice mix. My 33 years at EY has basically led me to where I am today, and it's equipped me with all the skills I needed. Sometimes I think, oh, perhaps I should have worked for a charity, perhaps I should have done more earlier. But actually, had I not done everything I've done with EY, firstly, I wouldn't have been able to afford to retire, and secondly, I wouldn't have had the skills to do it, and to do it for free. And it is very rewarding. The people are incredible, and I think that's hugely underestimated. The people at the charity are brilliant. They are so enthusiastic. They are hugely talented. I've learned a lot from them, and they're really good at what they do. They know what they're doing, and they're super dedicated. And it's quite an eye-opener, and it's a joy.